The modding community for The Sims franchise has been an unwavering staple for a very long while. Beyond The Sims 4 and 3, mods played a significant role in the expansion of the franchise and arguably assisted in carrying the relevancy of The Sims. Today we are discussing a pivotal mod that contends with being on par with the game pack. So get comfy, grab a snack, and let's go over this mod together. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to know when I upload. In the early days, we had mods like barbecuing your babies, which was extremely controversial, but we will save that for another day, to now where we have mods that promote inclusivity, realistic life endeavors, and now even fairies. To say that this community has not only expanded but improved their art and can be deemed one of the most talented modder communities in modern gaming would only be correct. So today I am bringing to you a very in-depth review and analysis of one of my new favorite mods for fantasy lovers or aspiring witches, or even both. This is the Fairies vs. Witches mod. I will be going over the fundamentals of this mod to help you decide before you download if this mod is right for you. We will be going over performance during gameplay, animations, new interactions, casts, build by, and any other miscellaneous attributes that I want to cover. This is a pretty big mod that teeters on being comparable to what EA provides as game packs, so if you are able to financially do so, it would be wonderful if you could support the creator of this mod. If not, then word of mouth is always a welcome gesture, so make sure all your friends know about this one. And of course, before we really delve into this, let's just take a moment of silence for console players. So sad. Okay, we're done. Let's move on. This mod can be found on Spinning Plum Bob's Patreon entirely for free. All you need to do is scroll to the bottom, download, extract the zip files, and add them to your mods folder. I highly recommend adding a Fairies vs. Witches subfolder to place the package files into in case you need to efficiently remove the mod. This is a gameplay mod that may not be as friendly on laptops that aren't specifically made for gaming. Laptop mode is discouraged even to avoid texture conflicts with fairy wings. And lastly, because I think some people might ask, I am using Floralia's save to add liveliness to this game. Please go check it out, as it is currently my favorite save file to date. I will include the save file in the description box down below. And the reshade that I am using today is my own reshade. I do have plans on uploading it eventually. Detailed on the Spinning Plum Bob's Patreon, you will see an overview of gameplay features as well as coming updates. In future updates, we're likely to see more spells and abilities, improvements on current spells and abilities, more cross-compatibility with other mods, lore expansion, witch covens, goal event magic battles, careers, and even aspirations. This is a mod that's worth keeping on your radar and watching out for future updates. As of filming, this mod has been deemed compatible with the story progression update on November 30th of 2021. So first, let's go over fairies. To get your main sim to become a fairy, you need to create a normal sim in cast that is not classified as an occult. Otherwise, your sim will be unable to become a fairy if they are listed as an occult. This is to combat any conflicts that may happen when merging occults together. In build and buy, we have a new fairy statue object. You can place this object onto a home or community lot. Then you will have your sims interact with the statue and make an offering. You should get a pop-up that wants to transport you to a revamped version of Sylvan Glade. Select the option to have your sim embrace the feeling that they get, and your sim will be transported to Sylvan Glade. However, something is a little bit different here. Immediately, you'll notice fairies wandering around Sylvan Fairy Village, as it is now called. These fairies are customizable by using cast.full edit mode, which I highly encourage for their wings. You will want to greet the ethereal guardian of Sylvan Glade and become friends with them. Ask how to become a fairy and search for sprites around the village, which is an option you get by clicking on the ground. Once you find one, talk the sprite up and get friendly with them until you get the option to make a wish. A few options pop up, which is efficient in itself. You can have any normal sim wish for a child, wish for money, wish for intelligence, and even wish for love. But the interaction you'll choose is to ask to become a fairy. You'll notice they will get the spellcaster interface now, as well as an occult plum bob. Your sim will get a magic skill, as well as become the first level of a fairy, which is a pixie. That is just so freaking cute and detailed. To get the wings, you're going to want to take your sim and into casts and put wings on them. Wings are located in the head accessories, specifically in the earrings category. You'll want the wings skins that you cannot see in casts. Otherwise, the other wings that show up in casts stay on your sim constantly. If you want your sim to be able to transform out of the wings, then you need to make sure that the wings that you choose are the ones that you cannot see in casts. Of course, apply the wings to every outfit you want your sim to have it on, and the wings will appear while they are not hiding their fairy form. Once out of cast, turn on Use Magical Outfit. You can turn off the wings as I am demonstrating here. You can also repress the fairy form, which will switch the sim back into a normal looking sim, and just as easily you can turn back into a fairy. Fairies have a different walk style. That's just them floating around when they are in their fairy form and not suppressing their magic. Fairies are very customizable from the wings all the way to the glitter trails. Fairies can also, of course, practice magic and unlock new spellcasting abilities and superpowers. Unfortunately, when it comes to the wings, the box texture will be around them when the sim is highlighted, but in my opinion, that is a small detail that is pretty easy to overlook. When you become a fairy, you'll want to consult the ethereal guardian about your magical abilities. You can ask for the fairy handbook to have a more authentic feel to obtaining the handbook. The book will show up in your inventory and you will now have access to the fairy handbook. You'll see what level your fairy is, and much like vampires, for example, you'll be limited on abilities the lower rank you are. You can go over the spells you can learn that are learned by improving magic. You can study fairy magic with this book and also battle other fairies to gain skill or XP. You can also find this fairy handbook in Build and Buy. That's just like an easier way to get it because you do kind of need to be friends with the ethereal garden in order to obtain the book from them. Fairies will also get perks from advancing their magic, mostly based on their personality and their way of living, and these can be tinkered with at the Giving Fairy statue. Fairies can pass their status to offspring, though there are conflicts with merging occults and this is discouraged. Children will gain abilities once they are magically awakened by their parents. Children can practice magic, be trained by their parents, and study books. Fairy parents can teach their fairy children to fly just as well. You can use the fairy ring to develop the new flight skill and teach your fairies to be more efficient on their wings. Upon achieving higher ranks, your fairy sims will be able to earn new perks from the Giving Fairy statue. So my overview for fairies and general first impression of their attributes to this mod is that this is just simply amazing for a mod. The ease in which the animations perform is just astounding to me. Custom content such as wings are beautiful and detrimental to the immersion of this mod. While certain texture conflicts can be distracting, they are able to be ignored in favor of resounding gameplay. Concepts widely take a lot from centralized aspects already included within Realm of Magic and merge together these ideas to form what all of us as players would have anticipated and hoped for from fairies. Many players were incredibly disappointed when cottage living hinted fairies with the inclusion of fairy summoning circles and little fairy doors. And then, of course, fairies were not added as an occult in the cottage living expansion. Instead, we got to run impossible errands in a subpar expansion that I really wouldn't recommend if it wasn't for cast and build by mode. This mod was conjured with dedication, keeping in mind grievances and what players aspired to see when they were hoping for fairies. This is how the game should be handled, and even to this day, the project is not complete and more additions are still underway. But that is not all, my friends. This only covers half of the mod. Next, we are going to delve into witches. It's arguable that spellcasters can be classified as witches. I would heavily reject that notion. As someone who once heavily practiced and still to this day uses in moderation some methods and forms of Wicca, Realm of Magic fell very short when it came to magical beings, instead taking a sillier route that even Harry Potter thinks is tacky. Spellcasters to me really aren't witches. They're just kind of like humans with bizarre abilities. I like to pretend, but sometimes it can be distracting and just it's too silly for me. Like seriously, why does this woman look like she crawled out of a sewage tunnel after 20 years of no direct sunlight? She's like 2 more days of no sunlight away from turning into one of those feral dog monsters in the time machine. It's just silly. So now I'm going to cover witches. Much like fairies, witch status has to be earned. It cannot be placed on your sim in cast. Do not, I repeat, do not make your sim a spellcaster when creating them in cast. Like a fairy sim, they should be a normal human when you first start out. You will have to endure trials to become a witch. From build and buy mode, you will need the witch's altar, which I already enjoy a million times more than the spellcasters. The altar is an important aspect of witchcraft, and this one just so happens to glow at night. Your sim will need to inspect the altar and then have them meditate. You will conjure an ancestral witch who will aid on your journey to achieving witch status and also progressing that status. So take your time to befriend the ancestral witch and ask her about witchcraft. You can ask her about how to become a witch and she will give you a task. Complete her task and return to her with your end of the bargain. She will then turn your sim into a witch, and much like the fairy, your sim will get the spellcaster interface with an occult plumb bob. Also, like the fairy, you will obtain a rank and skill starting as a practitioner witch. Witches will also get a book very similar to fairies and improve skills in magic to level up their ranks. This book is obtained by making a specific offering to the altar as instructed by the ancestral witch. She will let you know what to do, but I believe for the most part it should be 2 amethysts that is required for the altar. Or you can just simply obtain the book through build and buy mode. This book operates the same way that the fairy book does, just with different wording relevant to witches, including altar configurations added. You can be trained by the ancestral witch or continue to meditate at the altar. You have several options with the ancestral witch to increase your abilities, so you will want to take advantage of that. Once your magic bar is full, you can select the altar to learn new abilities. Power sources come with both fairies and witches. Some will be more drawn to nature, while others can turn to darkness. Power sources can influence success and strength for both of these kinds of sims. Determining power sources will decide what kind of fairy or witch your sim will be. You can draw from all sorts of elements that will help determine which power source you are best at. Examples would be plants, ice, the moon, the sun, and your sim will derive their power from these specific sources. And just like fairies, witches can teach their offspring to become witches and awaken their abilities once they are children. So now, how I feel about witches. Obviously, it doesn't include everything I would be hopeful for, like covens. However, covens will be coming along with so much more as this mod expands. Witches share many of the same properties with fairies with different methods of practice, so there's a clear distinguishing feature between them. Witches are still better in this mod than spellcasters in general, so I would say that this is a huge win for this mod. With all of that said, this is easily one of the best mods I have encountered for fantasy gameplay in The Sims and my favorite gameplay addition mod of 2021. This adds so much more variety to occults that delve in magic and offers a huge amount of immersive gameplay that I could see myself spending hours on this mod to develop storylines and skills for my Sims, as well as expanding on lineage and developing the skills of Ken to create generations of fairies and witches. And of course, I want to say a huge thank you to Spinning Plum Bobs for this wonderful mod, and be sure to go check out the gameplay walkthrough that Spinning Plum Bobs made to help you navigate any points I missed. There is so much to this mod, and it's difficult for me to cover all of it without this just turning into like a tutorial video, really. The video will be linked in the description box, so make sure to watch it when you download the mod. That way there's just no confusion in general. And then lastly, should you get this mod? Absolutely. And it is my humble opinion that EA should really consider hiring more modders from this community, because honestly, this is just so talented. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.